Alrighty then, good afternoon, you fantastic people. Silver Dragon here, coming at you with a bit of a discussion video for an upcoming game, Survive the Nights, which is a multiplayer zombie survival sandbox game. And before I can hear just the chorus people in the background going, "Oh God, not another sandbox zombie survival game!" But yes, damn it, another zombie sandbox survival game. So everyone probably knows at this point that I really do love the zombie genre and have just been really disappointed for a long time now at what we've been getting for the zombie survival game, Wink. Sandbox game, where 90% of the time it seems like the zombies aren't really that much of a threat, they're mostly a minor annoyance, and your real threat is going to be the other players, and it generally devolves into just an open world PvP game with some very light survival elements. Thus, kind of, voiding the whole point for me of, well, what the hell's the point in playing a zombie survival game when the zombies are supposed to be strong enough to wipe out civilization when they're not the main threat? It's like, players will always be a threat, and I'm fine with that, but they should not be the core main threat to the game. So, Survive the Nights is actually doing a lot of interesting things that will, at least I hope, I hope, separate it from those other games. Let me actually hit this guy up here so we can go through a slideshow of the various images of the moment. So, every building in the game is enterable. Every building can be fortified. There's a season system, which is actually really, really cool from what they've showed of it. They actually have a new video up here recently. And speaking of which, I will be posting links down below to their media section, essentially, which has a variety of videos so you can see some of the game. Every vehicle you find out there will can be made to run again. However, there may be a variety of parts that they need to actually get running again. There's also an insane amount of craftables, custom weapons. Also, let me get rid of that image in the background there. Cough. Fantastic. There we go. Almost got everything kind of set up the way I intended it. Cough, cough. So yes, every building can be entered, looted. You can board up the windows, which is actually a really interesting system as well. They're working on a free-form placement system. So if you have, say, a boarded up, a fence, you can actually pull off the planks on the fence and use them to board up your windows. Now, to kind of pit against the whole PvP, just running around murdering everyone side of the genre, I should say, they have added in will add in, I'm not sure if this will be in for the initial alpha, but still, they are adding in a Sanity system. You can see a nice glow trap here. So, if you go around just killing a bunch of players, your sanity will be lowered. Or your mental health will be lowered, and then eventually you will be, shaking, or maybe you'll be seeing things or hearing things. And eventually it can lead to unavoidable suicide, which is interesting. But that's not the only thing that affects mental health. Injuries could potentially affect mental health. Eating rat burgers would affect mental health. And so on and so forth. So there'll be a variety of things that will affect this system, but one of them, of course, will be just killing other players. I wouldn't imagine that it's going to kill off the whole bandit system, in a sense. People will still be able to kill people, but just not constantly, all the time. You would not want to do that, because then you would suffer for it, as it were, and it might make surviving difficult. So that's the one thing that really has me interested. We have a new lighting system here. Before, the whole corridor just kind of lit up. Now we can actually see it lighting properly, which is really nice. So, other than that, let me go back to some of the other systems. So, the season system, which we've seen here, and I should say the day and night system. So, your typical day and night will last between, 12? I have it up here somewhere. Your typical day will day cycle will be between 40 and 60 minutes, and a year cycle will be between 12 and 15 actual days. So with the year cycle, we actually will have seasons in the game. So you have spring, summer, autumn, and winter. When autumn rolls around, cover starts to become a bit more scarce. It gets colder. You will need to, keep more warm and prepare for the winter. Get food stocked up because once winter rolls around, it gets really, really cold. You won't be able to go out for long. And one of the really interesting bits that they added in for a bit of realism is that during the winter, the day hours will actually be shorter, and during the summer, they will be longer. So a bit of added realism to that regard in it, which I really, really like. But yes, so there is a full body temperature system in that regard. Warm clothes you will need. You need to find a shelter, build a fire. Depending on the temperature, who knows if it's, really, if it happens to randomly decide it's really, really cold outside, we might be able to, or not be able to go out for very long, exposed to the weather before freezing, so it'll limit the amount of time we can even spend out then. I don't know, I can imagine them hopefully adding in something, a random nature in that regard, because it would kind of suck if you were locked inside a house for a portion of the game because you couldn't go outside. But still, it would be, more realistic in a sense to have that, but we'll have to see what happens. So yeah, we have a whole system along body temperature, weather, which will be added in eventually. Right now, planned features are going to be for random weather, seasonal vegetation, so we'll be able to plant crops during the summer, hopefully. Harvestable berries, so various bushes, or berry bushes will grow out in the wild, and we'll be able to harvest those during the correct seasons, and so on. There's also a food calorie system. So food will matter. You won't necessarily starve to death, really quickly. You will have to not eat for several days for you to ever actually starve to death. But as you get hungrier, you will slow down, get more sluggish. Your aiming will become, penalized and such. But likewise, in the other end of things, if you eat a lot, you'll be faster. You can carry more. You can aim better, and so on and so forth. And speaking of which, when it comes to skills, you will be able to pretty much learn as you do. So there is a leveling system, and you can increase your level by actually doing things. If you shoot, you'll become more accurate. If you trap animals, you'll be able to become, better at it and get more returns from it. If you fish more, you will eventually get more fish and more often, I should say. Same thing for foraging and possibly building. You become better at making, at boarding things up without wasting. Now, part of the whole maintaining your stuff as well, like say, for example, you do find a building, you can see the firecracker trap there, you do fortify it, you store it with full of stuff, you have a vehicle parked in the garage next door, What's to keep people from just walking in and taking all of your stuff? Not too much. Essentially, what you can do to somewhat prevent that, there's no guarantees in a game like this. I've actually asked the dev about this, and yeah, I said, there's a few things you can do, but there's no guarantee that you're going to log back in and all of your stuff is going to be there. So you can actually craft or attach padlocks to doors and containers to kind of slow them down in that regard. You can build a variety of traps to strew around the building and the yard and whatnot. I'm hoping you could eventually get some landmines you could potentially place around to keep out unwanted fellows. Likewise, you could take parts out of the vehicle, like a variety of important parts out of the vehicle, store it in a container somewhere. That way, no one can actually take it, necessarily. Now, as for the generator, certain vehicles do have hitches on them, and you can attach it up to the generator and then haul the generator away. Now, with the whole freeform placement system, I imagine you could plunk the generator down beside your building. And there is actually a full power system as well in that regard. So there's breaker switches and all sorts of craziness like that. And likewise, there will actually be powered traps and all sorts of things. So with the free placement system, I imagine you could place the generator right by the outdoor, breaker essentially. Hook it up. Pardon me. Build a little shack around it. Maybe fortify it with some iron or something, iron sheets you picked up. And then add a door and padlock the hell out of it. Maybe even a double door. I imagine there's a lot of things like that you could do eventually. We're not going to be able to do a lot of that initially. But still, eventually one could go do something along those regards. Thus able to prevent people from getting at it. Now, I believe they're working on a couple different ways to generate power, both from the gas generators as well as solar panels and such. But there's also a variety of mechanical systems. As we saw before there in the screenshot, there's a cement mixer. There's also might be, say, a water pump or other mechanical devices that we will be able to make and use or find and use. Now, these actually have to be maintained, or they will have issues and then eventually cease to function. So they will require potentially like things like oil, different lubricants and such, spare parts if, say, a fan belt on the generator blows. So that's definitely, there's a lot of complexity that could potentially be added to this, and I really do like what I'm seeing here in that regard. Now, we'll have to, see into the future how things will turn out. There are a couple of interesting videos that you can find in their media section where a couple of big-name streamers had gotten access to a different build of the game. Although I'm not sure if I'm pretty sure the game is still not feature parity with those videos, as they were recorded before the Kickstarter, or during the Kickstarter for it. But it is getting pretty close from what I see. If you check the changelog, which I will also link here, they are really close to getting the game running here. So we are at, what is it here? 95% for the alpha. You can currently buy the game from their website, and you will get a Steam key for it. I'm not sure if we will get an early access version at the exact same time. I'm not 100% on that as of yet. We can see a variety of things. Currently, the lowest on their alpha checklist here is the fortification overhaul. That's going to be likely getting in for version 1.4. And you can see a whole bunch of these character customizations. Probably not going to get in until version 2 of the alpha. Animal traps won't get in until about 1.3. A few things in 1 will have just, let's see, butchering animals, swimming, vehicles will be in, VoIP will be in. They're actually working on radios as well. Zombies climbing through windows, yada yada yada. Player-owned servers will be in at 1.3. So you will be able to make your own servers. And you can add moderators to that, and you could potentially come up with some rules. For instance, if you really were uncomfortable about the thought of people just kind of stealing stuff from other people, one could potentially set up their system so that, or their server, so that, certain rules apply to that. Only a certain attachment area or set of people who, or can be bandits necessarily, and others just belong to a faction or another, or roam around by themselves. But that all depends on what one wants to do and how much one wants to put into that, to be honest. I suppose eventually one could even customize the server to, say, increase zombie spawns to make it even more difficult. Or maybe lower the rarity or increase the rarity of loot, and so on and so forth. Or maybe the rarity of guns to make it so we actually need to use more handcrafted stuff. Either way, it's definitely interesting. And I would definitely say check out some of the videos they've shown, because although, it'll be a while before this game really gets to the point where it's near what the some of the videos showed. It showed some really good concepts about it that definitely are impressive. So, interesting. But say you have a vehicle as well and a trailer attached to it. You're driving through town. You can actually pick up like scrap lumber and such, chuck it in the back of the vehicle. It'll actually take up a space. You can, of course, just throw stuff into containers, but I'm pretty sure that the container will have a limit to how much can be stored in it, and possibly a size limit, such as a big chunk of metal siding you might not be able to put into a container. You might have to throw that in the back of the vehicle or in a trailer, and then haul that back to the base, and then take it out and, hammer it up on the walls or something like that. Likewise, if a vehicle has different attachment points on it, you can, for instance, say put an axe on there or a crowbar, and those are actually, actual tools you can then take off the vehicle. So it's definitely a very, very interesting game. I'm looking forward to it. It should be releasing its alpha here somewhat soonish. I mean, it could be another month or two, but it is looking like it's getting pretty close. And they are upping their announcements and such for little spoiler screenshots, as it were, of the island and whatnot. And we will actually, during the alpha, we will have access to the entirety of the island. It might not necessarily be entirely populated, but we will have access to it. So it's going to be interesting. I can't wait to check it out. It's pretty much this game has my only remaining hope, I would say, for the genre. If this game cannot deliver the kind of, actual zombie survival experience that I'm looking for in a multiplayer zombie survival game, then I don't know anymore. I at that point I think I give up on the genre entirely, because it's just not gonna be too worth it at that point, because nobody seems to be able to do the kind of or make the kind of game that I'm really looking forward to. But we'll have to wait and see. Regardless, guys, thank you for watching. Definitely do check out the game if you are interested. And, of course, the moment that it does pop up and we are given the access to the alpha version, I will, of course, be chucking up a variety of videos on that. And we will explore the hell out of it and see how things go. But, yeah, thank you very much for watching, everyone. Have yourselves a great one. And definitely do check out the links down in the description below. Till next time.